Welcome to the Heroic Voice. It is April 18th, 2026, and I am here with Jenny Blake, formerly known as Tony Isabella, longtime friend, comic book writer, the creator of Tigra, the creator of Black Goliath, the creator of Black Lightning, and there's probably some other characters you've created that,
Misty Knight is probably one of the biggest ones that you've left out.
yeah. Tony, it is good to see you. It's been a while, been too
Jenny.
long.
It's
Um,
Jenny.
yeah, Jenny. Yeah, I'm going to do
Don't,
that. Forgive me
don't,
when
yeah,
I do.
oh, don't worry. If somebody does it out of malice, it offends me.
Yeah.
But obviously, I was Tony for a very long time, and so I do not. I find it amusing when people get it wrong.
Oh, it's too easy. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
someone who is terrible with names. I mean,
Oh,
I always
I
have
I will
been.
sometimes before I catch myself sign an email with the wrong name.
This is the Heroic Voice, where I talk to comic book creators and other interesting people on a variety of subjects. I am Dennis Maloney, publisher of the Heroic Multiverse, where we feature good girl and bad girl artwork, super babes, and all kinds of Silver Agey style stories. Yeah. In any event, it is good to see you. I'm
Good to
I'm
see
so
you
glad to
too.
have you on the Heroic Voice. And I do want to talk to you about, the creation of Tigra. Maybe the Tigra story that I wrote that Marvel basically botched when they finally printed it.
Yeah, because I never knew you had done that.
Ah,
But
well,
I have a tendency uh not to read things after I leave a title.
so let's get into this, and then we can talk about, Black Goliath, Black Lightning, and whatever
Sure.
else you want to talk about.
Okay.
The genesis of Tigra. She appeared in one of those giant-sized werewolf.
Yeah, giant-sized creatures, number one, featuring Werewolf by
Werewolf by
Night.
Night, right? How did the notion come? You utilized the cat, you utilized Greer
Greer
Nelson,
Nelson.
right? And basically changed her completely around.
Yeah, I basically, well, I don't think I changed her completely around, but what I have always hated is see good characters just go by the wayside. And even though the Claws of the Cat had not been a success, I like Greer Nelson. I like the idea of that here was this widow of a police officer uh trying to make her way, she basically, was remade and was remaking herself, and that interested me. And nobody seemed to have any long-term plans for her. She'd turn up in a Marvel team up or something. So when Roy asked me to write the first issue of Giant Sized Creatures, we both knew that I had to do something special for it. It was a number one, there had to be something special. And so I decided, well, why don't I introduce a new character, a female werewolf? Now, we always called her Tiger the Werewolf Woman, even though
Werewolf,
we were fully aware of the fact that that was called Man Woman. It was,
yes.
the werewolf is Man Woman. It was just catchier. And I wouldn't, if I were writing Tiger today, I would never use that phrase again. But yeah, that was my notion was, okay, I'm going to do a female werewolf. And cat, wolf, not that big a stretch. I figured, why don't I use Greer Nelson, who I liked and who hadn't been appearing, and I could kind of give her a new life. So basically, that first issue was structured around how to introduce this character, tie her in with the werewolf. I use Hydra as the villains because I love Hydra. Even when Hydra was laughed at by other people in the Marvel bullpen, I always thought Hydra was, one of the greatest ideas Stan and Jack ever came up with. I was hooked from the first cut off an arm and two will take it, or cut off a head and two will take its place.
Well, there
So I
weren't
always
Nazis anymore. They had to come up with something. Hydra was the
exactly, and
substitute.
and actually a lot of their reboots, in animation and everything, have pretty much replaced Nazis with Hydra.
Yeah.
But I always loved Hydra, so I used them as the villains. I also wanted to use Dr. Tumalo. And I figured, here's how I can tie her in with that. There's this race of cat people.
Okay, hold on. People who don't know this don't know who Dr. Tumolo is.
Okay,
She's the
Dr.
woman
Tu
who,
she was a scientist working for the big bad of the first Claws of the Cat issue, and she was the one who designed the cat uniform that gave them powers. um, and kind of mentored Greer.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Okay. We've covered that now for people who
right.
aren't familiar.
So now now there's Greer kind of uh, traveling through the country trying to find herself. When she runs into Hydra, there's a battle. She actually ends up helping the cat people, but she gets severely injured doing it. And to save her life, they do this mystical ceremony that basically infuses her with, the power of the legendary warrior Tigra. So that's how Greer becomes Tigra. And after that, I mean, I always wrote her speech pattern was meant to be a more feminine Spider-Man, wisecracky, self-reflective, things like that. Um, so I gave her a speech pattern I thought was, distinctive. Had her fight Hydra. Uh, she turned out to be very popular. The costume, the original Tiger drawing was by, Roy Thomas and I sat down with Gil Kane. Then Don Perlin drew the actual comic book and simplified Gil's sketch somewhat, because who could draw like Gil Kane?
Yeah.
Uh, and when, after Roy had left, the Marvel brass, when, Len Wein and Marv Wolfman were pretty much the editors, and the Marvel brass wanted a lot of books very quickly. So I walk into the office to talk to them about stuff, and I walk out with three new books,
Yeah.
Tigra, Champions, and Black Goliath. And the Champions was very different from what I had pitched. I had pitched Angel and Iceman as Route 66 with mutant superheroes.
Oh, that would have been a good,
Oh,
good.
the odd couple teaming of the richest X-Men and the most middle class X-Men, traveling the country, meeting hot chicks, fighting supervillains. I just thought that would be a really fun book to do.
That would have been. We didn't. They shouldn't have done just another team book. They should have
Well,
kept.
that's what they wanted. I mean, and the
Yeah.
conversation I had with Marvin Len that day was hilarious. It was like Len, who was writing Fantastic Four at the time, told me that all team books have to have five members. And when I said, "You mean like Fantastic Four?" and he went, "Exactly." So then it was every team book had to have a woman character. And I'd written Black Widow and Daredevil. I'd written her out of Daredevil because I thought that the two characters, while great together, were also hurting each other.
Yeah.
So Black Widow was available. I always liked her. Then they said every book had to have a strong man. So nobody was using Hercules. I always thought he was fun. So I said, okay, we add a Hercules. And then the one that really got me was every team needs a member who has their own book. And they wanted me to use Luke Cage. And I said, I don't want to take Luke Cage out of New York. Um, so since I was writing Ghost Rider, I figured, well, I can write Ghost Rider out of the Champions a lot. So I said Ghost Rider, and that's how this weird team, came together. Um, Fans like it a lot more than I did while I was doing it. Um,
Well, you had characters that fans liked, right?
yeah,
Even though the
and
book didn't succeed in the long run,
yeah.
there's still some fan favorites in there.
Oh yeah, and so I now appreciate what the fans saw in it, and I think I did good work on it, but it wasn't my original concept, which was basically Route 66 with young heroes. Um, so that was, so it was like three books approved on the same day, and like that afternoon, John from Porton told me I was always already 3 weeks late on all of them. It
Oh
was
man,
it was a
John was
crazy
great.
time. Um, And that's one of the reasons I left New York to move back to Ohio. I could do two things in New York. I could work and I could play because that was all I had time for. And early on, I realized that would kill me, that
Hmm.
I would not live long with that kind of a schedule. So I moved back to Ohio. But yeah, so Tigra was, the character was created because I needed something special for giant-sized creatures, number one. She was popular. Fans were asking for more. And so, that was one of the three books that I pitched a Tigra series previously. So that was one of the three books that got approved. They had no artist for it. So I discovered Will Mineo,
Hmm.
who I am so delighted. I mean, Will has had such a great career,
Oh yeah.
and to know that the people at Marvel really did not appreciate him. I saw his work was in a, basically a slush pile of artwork, that people had submitted. And I said, "Hey, this guy's good." And I think he had a Tigra page that he had done in there. So I said, "Yeah, he'd be good for Tigra."
Yeah, Will did a little bit of work with me. I mean, he helped design Britannia's costume
Yeah,
and did that first Britannia story,
yeah,
along with a couple of covers. I'd like to do more stuff with him, but
yeah.
we just haven't crossed paths again in
Well,
the
it
process.
worked out. Although Will's tenure on Tigra was even
Brief.
shorter than mine.
Yeah, it was like one issue.
Um, no, I think he did
Two.
at least two,
He did.
but
She appeared in like Marvel Chillers or something like
yeah,
that,
that was
starting with issue three, as I
you're
recall.
right. But Mark Evander, who was visiting me from California for the convention, Mark saw the pages, and so when Will became available, Mark started hiring Will to do Edgar Rice Burroughs comics for
Hmm.
England. So it worked out, Will's association with me, however short it was, did benefit him because my buddy Mark, saw Will's artwork. Um,
All
but
right.
yeah, so
So
yes,
before we slip into what I was going to do with Tigra, let's talk about the genesis of Bill Foster as Black Goliath.
same thing. He was a great character. Um, and I wanted him, I needed a powerful antagonist for Luke Cage, somebody who could really hold their own with Luke Cage. Uh, and it was just one of those whims. I said, well, what if Bill Foster was Claire Temple's ex-husband? You know, Claire had left New York, and Luke was trying to find her, and eventually found her. She was at least reuniting with Bill Foster because Bill Foster had theoretically been trapped at giant size, which was just kind of a lie Bill told to get his ex-wife back. Um, I never liked the name Black Goliath.
I don't
I
think
want,
anybody did.
yeah, I wanted to call him Giant Man.
Yeah,
And I was told Giant Man so badly. That's why you got kicked out of Tales to Astonish, that I couldn't use that name. And I don't know whether I might have come up with Black Goliath because Hawkeye had gone by Goliath for a while. Or it could have been somebody. I don't really remember if I created the name. I'm willing to take the blame for it because I don't remember. But yeah, I never liked the game name. Always wanted to call him Giant Man, which didn't happen until Dwayne McDuffie started writing him.
yeah, they did eventually start calling him that. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that was again a character that I liked that wasn't being used. And I felt he's a good character. We should keep him in the Marvel universe. And of course, in what was it, Civil War, of course, black guys die first, so he gets killed. Uh,
Oh Lord, I shouldn't laugh, but
I know it's just, and obviously I have a lot of black companions and friends and co-workers and things like that. It's one of the reason I got into working on black characters was that when I was a teenager, I had a comics club on the west side of Cleveland, very segregated at the time, Cleveland was. And my first black friends were comic book friends that came from the east side of Cleveland to the west side of Cleveland to attend the meetings. And, you know, I was a teenager. The word diversity hadn't really worked its way into my vocabulary. I just thought it was unfair that my black friends didn't have more characters that they could
mm,
relate to, and always told myself that if I got into comics, I would work with and create, you know, more characters of color. So I got to work on Luke Cage. I worked on the Falcon. I worked on Living Mummy, not that people realized he was black because he was all mummified, and Misty Knight. And then when I got, then I got to be known for writing these black characters, much as Don McGregor was considered almost a black writer. And so when DC wanted to hire me, one of the things they wanted me to do was a new black superhero. But we'll get
Hence Black
into
Lightning.
yes, although the superhero they wanted me to write was Black Bomber.
Okay.
Okay, I will preface this by saying that the creators of Black Bomber, Robert Kanigher and Jerry Conway, good, decent, progressive men. Bob was a friend of mine, Jerry is a friend of mine. They were too close to what they were doing, which they thought was like a superhero version of the movie Watermelon Man with Godfrey Cambridge, that they didn't realize how offensive I mean, I was handed two scripts. Black Bomber was a racist who undertook chemical experiments in Vietnam so that he could blend into the jungle better. Uh, it never took effect while he was in Vietnam, but when he got back to the States, in times of stress, he would turn into the Incredible Negro. Uh, and in each of these two issues, I should pre both identities, neither identity knew of the other, but
Ah,
both had girlfriends that witnessed the transformation and said nothing. I'm
okay.
sorry. I would
That
have
sounds
asked
like typical Bob Kanigher.
I would have asked some questions. But in each of the two scripts, as the white racist, he saves somebody that he can't see clearly and then is horrified that he risked his life for a black person. In one case, it was a baby in a baby carriage, and the script literally had him saying, "You mean I risked my life for a jungle bunny?"
Oh my God.
And just to put the cherry on this shit sundae, his uniform was basically a basketball uniform. So, DC hands me this saying, we'd like you to punch up these two scripts and then you know, take over the book with the third issue. And I read the two scripts and I go, you can't publish these. And they go, what do you mean? We paid for them. I said, no, you can't publish these. There's no fixing them. You can't publish them. And they go, why not? I said, because if you do, people will come to these offices with pitchforks and torches. And they go, how do you know that? And I said, I'll be leading them. And we went back and forth for nearly 2 weeks. And yeah, I was in a very precarious position. Um, are you getting all of me? I'm just looking at this camera here. I'm not
I'm
sure.
getting you. Don't move it.
Oh, okay. Are you still good?
Yeah, I'm seeing less of you now.
All right.
Uh,
Let me move that down a little. How's that?
that's now I'm losing the top of your head.
All right. We don't want to lose the top of my head. I spent a lot of
There you
time
go.
growing out
Okay,
my
that
hair.
that's good. That'll work.
Uh,
Okay.
okay. So anyway, it was like 2 weeks of arguing with them, and I was in a precarious position. I had no regular work. I'd been let go at Marvel. The day I came in to tell Marvel that I was accepting an offer from DC, uh, I got fired because they didn't have enough work to go around. Um, I go over to DC, and to his credit, Jerry Conway called Sal Harrison at DC to say, "Hey, I had to let Tony go, but it wasn't for any reason of quality or work or anything like that. I just didn't have the work for him. DC would do well to hire him because he figured I'd go over to DC. He didn't know that I'd already accepted an offer from DC, but in the time it took me to walk from Marvel to DC, Sal Harrison decided that deal was off the table since now I was unemployed. Um, but so I had no steady job, no regular assignments. I was basically living on friends' couches. And so I could have easily been, penniless and homeless in New York City, but I just couldn't write this book. So finally, they said, all right, you got 2 weeks to create your own character. And again, using nothing from Black Bomber, I created Black Lightning.
Hmm.
Again, I'm a middle class guy, lower middle class. That's where my heart lies, which is why I made him a teacher in Suicide Slum. He was an Olympic athlete because I knew he'd need skills to perform as Black Lightning. Um, the fact that he was teaching at his old school, I stole from Welcome Back, Cotter. Uh, so yeah, I mean, those kind of stories is where my heart lies.
All right.
Um, I can write the cosmic stuff, I can write supernatural stuff, but it's the real stuff that means the most to me and always has.
Well, I agree with you in that. I mean, in the stuff that I do, I try to focus on the personalities, on the characters.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the most I'm a core values guy
Mhm.
or girl now at this point. I'm a core values girl. Um, I want the characters to behave like themselves. I don't want, there's too many people in comics who think making a character more powerful is character development,
No,
and
that's
it's
bullshit.
not.
It's not.
Yeah, and so I like comics where the characters are true to themselves, true to their core values.
We've
Um,
covered a lot of stuff here in these last 20 minutes. This is some good history. Thank you.
now
Stuff that I certainly didn't know.
you told me that you wrote a Tiger story. Now
I
I did not
did.
follow Tiger closely, and so I've never read this story. And from what I gather, you didn't hadn't read it before it appeared because they changed it so much.
The I was doing some stuff for Avengers Spotlight, right?
Okay.
The individual Avengers stories. I did a wonderfully illustrated Captain Marvel story, the Monica Rambeau thing, where she went back in time and met Dracula. I did a Scarlet Witch story that focused around the two kids, right, with death coming to pay her a visit. And I did a Tigra story. I wanted to get back to Greer, right? I wanted to go back to Greer's past, bring back her dad, who only appeared in issue number one, right? Have Tiger reconnect with Greer's family. And my thought was, once we'd reestablished the Greer Nelson persona, move forward from that. Give Tiger a firm foundation that the people who had been writing her didn't seem to see her as anything but a sexy cat girl,
Yeah.
which was, not that's
No,
not Greer.
no, no.
No, no, she may be sexy, she may take advantage of it occasionally, but that's far from all she was. So it was illustrated. I wrote the script, I sent it in, and it was 6 years before it finally saw print because they canceled Avengers Spotlight before that could appear. When it finally did appear, it was in some random book, and someone told me that it had been printed, and I didn't know that it was being printed. So I grabbed hold of the book, looked at, this is not the story that I wrote. I didn't know what to make of it. I got in touch with the office and asked what happened here. And I was told, oh, we lost the script. So we just gave the story to somebody else and he took the artwork and wrote a script for it. And I'm going, you've got my number. You could have just phoned me. I could have sent you the script, but by then it was too late, right?
Yeah.
It was not the story that I wrote. I mean, it was not a bad story, but wasn't at
When I,
all what I'd had
when
in
I
mind.
wrote Tigra, she was finding herself.
Yeah.
But I always expected, she would eventually have been added to the champions if I had stayed at Marvel. Um, Recently, a few years back, I pitched a Misty Knight Tigra team up. At this point, Tigra has a son, and she was actually working with the New York Police Department, which is where Misty Knight had gotten her start. And I came up with a story where they both had the same training officer. Um, Misty at the start of this training officer's career, Tiger at the end. He's murdered. He's framed as a dirty cop, and the two of them teamed up to. It was basically Hill Street Blues with superheroes and supervillains.
Hmm.
A police procedural could never interest anybody at Marvel to go for it, and this was while Misty Knight was on the Luke Cage show, so.
Yeah.
I can't figure out editors.
It's sometimes hard. I can't figure out myself sometimes.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Well, let's again, thank you for this. It's been a
oh,
nice
happy to
trip. Is
do it.
there anything else that you would quickly like to talk about? We only have a few minutes left here.
Sure. I have my first story as Jenny Blake was in last year's DC Pride anthology. It was very well received. One reviewer called me an iconic trans granny, and I had a t-shirt made with that. Um, I have created a new trans superhero. The first script is done. It's in the hands of the artist, and we're going to do a Kickstarter for it. I am working on a memoir called, probably published by DC. It's not definite yet, called My Closet is Full of Comic Books and Me, which will be vignettes from all around my career and my life. Uh, so obviously it's got stuff about my transition in it, but that's not all it is. And I'm creating new stuff. I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to put it out there. I have a lot, as many trans people do. I have a lot of anger issues with the way we're treated in this country. Um, and the way I get through that anger is to write. So I figure over the next few years, I'm going to fill a file cabinet with stories that may never see print. I told my
It's a
wife,
good way to vent.
I told my wife, look, when I'm dead, take those stories, see if you can sell them to other writers.
Alrighty. Jenny, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
I would like to have you again. We can talk about some other things.
Oh, sure.
In particular, the next time we do this, let's talk about Liberty Girl and the Tigress. Uh,
Yes,
yes, and we
because
don't have time for that today. I do want to encourage people who like this to subscribe, share, click that like button. Let's get more people here on the Heroic Voice. And Jenny, you have a wonderful weekend.
you do the same, my friend.
Thank you.